After a short period spent screaming down the sink in my hotel bathroom, it was a relief to be in the yielding rear seat of yet another Rolls-Royce, even if it was the same colour as the face powder Mae West wore to her own funeral. My host and hostess were obviously tickled pink to see me. Their chauffeur matched the car's colour scheme so closely that it had taken me a while to realise he was there.
Hello, Clive.
How good of you to send the car, boy. It's a beautiful car, too.
Clive, welcome to Hong Kong.
Called Bong for short, Kai Bong Chow and his wife Brenda are the most spectacular of Hong Kong's many conspicuous consumers.
Very good of you to invite me. I can tell
Their
you.
mansion, the House of Gold, starts living up to its title before you get inside. Nobody seems certain how Bong made his money, and nobody really cares, including him. What Bong and Brenda care about is the social whirl. They're out all night at every party in town. The gossip columns carry their photographs like wanted posters. So to see them up and running in daylight was a rare privilege.
This is the informal dining room. Actually,
Informal, huh?
yes. Well, actually, when we have a banquet, we move here, over here for desserts. Sometimes Brenda cooks an informal dinner, sometimes it's a real banquet.
All right.
But Brenda is an established cook. She cooked Chinese shark's fin, abalone, and bird's nest very well.
Yeah, Brenda, how do you cook a shark's fin?
Shark's fin is a very long cooking. It takes 3 days to cook. At least you have to soak it in the water for about 24 hours, and then you throw the water away because they are very smelly at the beginning. And then you have to boil them in water for a few hours and throw the water away and boil again, throw water away and boil again. And then the last time you boil it, you have to put ginger and spring onions and also some oil to boil until it gets soft. So altogether, for a shark's fin to get soft enough to eat, it will take about 14 hours to boil altogether. And then you have to change water at least 4 times.
All right.
Bong was just as fascinating about his crockery.
These Chinese teacups.
Yeah,
They were
gold.
part of a dowry from my mother. I think it's from the Qing dynasty. You can see
right.
the intricate carving on the...
They're all gold?
it was all silver, but I plated gold to match.
Sterling silver.
Yes, sterling silver, but I have to make it gold, otherwise stick out like a sore thumb if something is silver.
The cups and plates didn't stick out like sore thumbs anymore. They blended right in. The master bedroom was an Inca nightclub. But everything paled beside the splendor of Brenda's dressing room. It was a DIY job by King Midas.
My basins are gold-plated, and also the water taps.
Gold soup.
Bong and Brenda would be a sitting target for a tough journalist, but they're pretty tough themselves. 2 days before I got there, a ninja burglar troupe had tied them up and heisted the more portable valuables, strangely leaving the gold-plated solid silver dinner service behind.
You put shark's fin in here.
But burglary is as far as resentment goes. Hong Kong Bong and the irrepressible Brenda are objects of emulation. It might not be the way you and I want to live, but if Bong and Brenda do, and everybody else can make a buck gold-plating Brenda's toothbrush, who gets hurt?
Look at the sunset now. It's very beautiful.
Congratulations. It's gold. Gold and pink.
In Hong Kong after sunset, the Wan Chai district lights up. Only a step away from the tall towers, Wan Chai is the way Hong Kong used to look before the boom. Low rise, low rent, and with a red light district promising forbidden pleasures. But behind the razzle-dazzle, the red light is more of a soft pink, like Brenda Chow's trousseau. The extremely efficient police force strictly controls the naughtiness. The mafia-style gangs, the triads, make sure nobody except themselves runs mad with the suckers' money. The triads, like everything else in Hong Kong, are run like a business. They would punish any gang member who hurt a tourist. Very bad for the PR. Visitors, known locally as foreign devils, must go home safely. Perhaps in 1997 they will all go home. But for now, and more than ever before, ambitious young Britishers still flock to honkers for a kickstart to their careers in finance, the media and PR. After a hard day's work for local bosses whose language they don't speak, they gather in their very own backstreet bars, where they won't have to see their bosses either.
In Hong Kong, it's like being back at university. You can walk down the street, you meet someone that you like in a bar, and you'll become friends instantly. It's not like being in London where you have to meet them 20 times.
It's much more go-getting, much more entrepreneurial here.
The opportunities are enormous. You can lie about whatever you do. Like, you can write your CV on the plane, as a number of people have done.
Yeah.
And
with a
actually
good
get away
idea, meet
with it.
anybody. You can meet managing directors, you have a good idea, you can meet anybody, raise X amount of money and do anything.
That's the whole amazing thing about Hong Kong. Like in England, I really wanted to go into TV, but never really got going for it and thought I would never have the opportunity. Whereas in Hong Kong, that's the wonderful thing about it. You have got the opportunity.
I keep getting told that Hong Kong people are like Japanese. They work all day and all night. Is it true?
You can only go to the loo twice a day, and if you go to the loo more, you're fired after 3 examples.
The paging
of it.
companies, everyone's got paging machines, everyone's being paged all the time, and they have like, you can't go to the loo for longer than 3 minutes, so I mean, no, don't have constipation basically.
Despite the high rents and the cruel working hours, they have a great time in honkers. And if things don't shape up in 1997, they can always ship out. Next morning, I set off to see some of the people who will be staying in Hong Kong, whatever happens. Just around the corner, the Western District is full of them. Along the way, there was ample opportunity to marvel at the unflagging energy of the Asian refugees who built Hong Kong up in the first place. Nothing stops them. They were replacing the tram tracks while the trams were still running. And here it was, the actual, original Chinese Hong Kong. Here they run their small businesses, save their money, and wait for the big break. This is the way mainland China would always have looked if Marxism could have put up with a free market. I had seen something like this in Beijing and Shanghai, but on the mainland, no duck or chicken ever enjoys the luxury of getting this fat before it is slain. And when a mainland cow is finally cut up after its miserable life ends, the bits and pieces would barely fill a handbag. Here there's a van load in every animal. A bit further on, things started getting really oriental. At first I thought they were rattan beer coasters. They were dried coiled snakes. Python pizza. Dried beetle bar nibbles are something I must try sometime, perhaps after an atomic war. And there were the shark fins waiting for Brenda, 50,000 years worth of boiling. On the other side of the island, above Repulse Bay, I sought safety with all my prejudices confirmed. East and West, can the twain ever really meet? But of course they can. They can meet in one person. The woman I had come to see was born here, grew up in England, and returned to become the Anglo-Chinese Julia Roberts of Hong Kong's hyperactive film industry. In those hundreds of kung fu movies that fuel the fantasies of overstressed office workers, Maggie Chung spreads love and understanding.
Come on, hope you're hungry.
I wasn't particularly, but Maggie had agreed to bring West and East together by teaching me how to handle a pair of chopsticks in the correct manner.
You're hugely famous here and throughout the Chinese-speaking world. No, it's true, no?
Well, because it's such a small place, everybody knows everybody in Hong Kong. So once actually you're a public figure, either you're an actor or an actress or a famous businessman, once the people know your face, actually everywhere you go people will recognize you.
What about the press? Does it give you a hard time?
Yes, and they can be quite nasty sometimes in Hong Kong because it's a big thing, the gossip magazines. A lot of Hong Kong people, they're usually so stressed out with their own work, and at their spare time they just like to sit around, eat dim sum and talk about other people.
We used to call them dim sims in Australia.
No, dim sum, and it means literally from the heart. And it's actually back in the old days, it's a treat to have dim sum.
The dim sums arrived. Time for the chopsticks.
I was at a banquet once in China and I put my chopsticks down on the plate the way I would do with a knife and fork. And the guy sitting opposite me looked as if I'd just...
Actually, it's because if they're superstitious, it's not very lucky. It means death.
Death.
Yeah, so it's not a good thing to do either.
I was also very worried about my chopstick technique. I thought if I dropped some food on the table, I'd get arrested or something.
It doesn't really matter because we're all very messy eaters. And people, I mean, here I won't do it, or I won't do it myself, but a lot of people would even spit the bones on the table. That's fine too.
You don't do that, though.
I do it on the floor. No, I don't.
Thanks to Maggie, I would now be able to conduct myself during a Chinese meal without looking as if I was conducting an orchestra with each hand. Higher up still on Hong Kong Island, on the peak where the big money pays millions per square foot to breathe unpolluted air, I had a date to meet an Anglo-aristo fairly dripping with Oriental savvy. In the last 20 years, Patrick Litchfield has been one of the people who have helped register Hong Kong as an international symbol of luxury and glamour.
Okay, really stretch, Catherine.
These days, the beautiful girls who pose for his motor spares calendars are less scantily clad. But basically, and never more so than when photographing his royal relatives en masse, he's still in the fantasy fulfillment business.
Very impressive. I hate to interrupt.
Well, I'm awfully glad you have. I was feeling a bit wobbly up the top there.
So you won your long heroic struggle to get the clothes back on the girls.
Well, I succeeded in a few things. The girls were becoming so small that we couldn't see whether or not they had clothes on or not.
What about Hong Kong? Has it changed much in the years you've been coming here?
I've been coming here since 1970. This is actually my 52nd trip to Hong Kong, and it changes so fast that you don't have to go away. I mean, for instance, I was doing a seminar about 2 years ago, and I was showing the different delegates from all around the world how to photograph a city, or trying to. And I was standing in the Regent car park on Kowloon side, and I said, okay, all of you take a picture now of Hong Kong Island, and we talk it for a little bit, and then you take another picture, and it'll look different. And it does, you see, because another building will have sort of started creeping.
Would you come here if you didn't have to shoot?
I do. I mean, on my way to Australia, I try and break it by staying here because I think it's a marvellous place. Yeah. And I just think it's more and more interesting, and, you know, it's reaching this crescendo which one can't help be fascinated by.
You could say that Litchfield is helping to foster an illusion of Hong Kong, but that would be only half right. If you've got enough dosh, Honkers really does look a bit like heaven. And what makes the place go is that few feel debarred by birth from a place in the sun, or believe that it will ever set.